Hello? There it is. Alright, we're good. Yeah? Hello? Yep, we're good. Yay, okay. I just wanted to make sure. And I had to take out my fan. So, like, I'm doing this early in the mornings where it's not so hot. And everybody to sleep. Yeah. I don't know how long I'll do this. My voice is a little bit sore. I woke up with snot in the back of my throat. Typical lovely stuff. I don't care if you know what's coming next. At this point, it's fine. Just gotta make sure you don't get spoilers. I don't know how far I'll go. I'll go as far as I can. And yeah, it might be an hour, might be 30 minutes. Yeah, it's like 11 chapters, I think. 11 total chapters. Yeah. Yeah, we got a long way to go. Yeah, like, this is like almost as long as the next one coming. But funny thing is, that's great. It's gonna be great. I don't. Hello there. You're like, I just wanted to do it early. Okay, we're not there yet. Not there yet. Okay, 3 grand. This is a long book, I tell you. And this is not the longest one. No. Not even the one that I finished just recently. That's why I held off reading this for 2 weeks. Because, yeah. Yeah. Because I needed to finish writing the other book so that I could be happy. Okay, we're almost there. We're almost there. We're almost there. It's just, yeah. Like, this doesn't, because this is so long, it doesn't stay open where I want it to go, so, like, I eventually have to scroll anyway. Yeah. Yeah. Need a new character named Isaac. He's pretty cool. Yeah. I don't have a lot of female escorts, mainly because there's so many guys. I don't want people to ship people like that. It just feels weird. I don't want people to do that, and yeah. Not that there are any out there. There are plenty out there. Plenty. It's just most of them are guys because, well, most of them are guys. Because a lot of people don't think girls are as capable, even though that's far from true, that you can see from Gem. GeminiTay, of course. Gem is pretty tough. Pearl is pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. So, all of that fun stuff. Oh, we made it. 36. And I know we make it to 40. 48? Like 11, 12 chapters? That's it. Alright, get into it. Nobody apart from me is watching, which is absolutely fine. I just do it and just see what happens. People will eventually watch it anyway, because people like listening to what I have to say. Yeah. And I still don't have a name for Pearl's escort. Unfortunately. Chapter 36. Gem landed gently on the balcony, looking across from her base. It wasn't a large balcony, but it was good enough of a landing spot for her. She went over to the wooden door and checked the doorknob. It was locked. She pulled a key out of her pocket and turned it, opening the door as she stepped into a small living area. A few couches, armchairs, and tables. A few chests rested against the far wall by the door. She left the balcony door unlocked, in case Caleb Green or someone else decided to follow her. A pinch of dread still rested on her chest, like someone had put something heavy on her. Not too heavy, but strong enough to be noticeable. She'd felt it when confronting the man, the traitor who'd entered Scar's room while he was resting. The man had seemed so calm. She'd noticed him look out the window, and he had followed his gaze. He'd seen something she hadn't. Then the dread set in. She crossed the room, careful not to make much noise. Gem arrived at the door and put an ear to it, cautiously. The hallway outside was silent. She didn't want to call out, in case the wrong people were still there in the house. How had they even gotten in here, undetected? Had they missed a secret tunnel, or had the traitor deactivated one of the traps to let them in? That seemed more likely. She gently opened the door, wincing as it let out a low, creaky whine. She peeked out into the hallway, looking both ways before feeling confident enough to step out. The base was quiet, almost too quiet. Gem quickened her pace down the hall, making it to a set of stairs that led downstairs. Obviously. She peeked over to the railing, noticing a figure slumped against the wall into the main room. She rushed down the stairs, spotting movement as she ran over to the cause member, recognizing him as Beatup's escort, who'd insisted on staying at the base while Pearl's escort patrolled with Blake, Matthias, and Caden. "You're hurt," she gasped, going to grab her medical kit, but the man's pale hand reached out to touch her by the arm, startling her. She looked up to see a weak smile on the man's face. "There's nothing you can do for me. It's already too late," he managed to croak. "But," Gem insisted, seeing the pain in the man's eyes, not wanting to look down at the stained wood surrounding the man. "Your friends needed more." The man shook his head, coughing. "What happened? Where did it go?" she asked quickly, the man's hand falling back to his side. "They were trying to get to the bunker." The man groaned. "I bought them barely enough time." A shudder ran down Gem's spine as she nodded, looking over her shoulder to a set of stairs that had led down to the secret tunnels. Pearl had created a secret tunnel in that tunnel recently that led closer to the secret bunker, just in case. Maybe they were safe after all. Something deep within her suggested otherwise. "I'll be back for you," she insisted as she got to her feet, putting the box back into her pocket. Hearing the man's chuckle, she didn't look back to see how he was doing, going to the stairwell as she pulled out her communicator, connecting to Caleb. "I found Beatup's escort. He's critically injured. The others went down to get to the bunker," she reported quickly, not giving the boy a chance to say anything. "So they're okay?" the boy pressed. "I don't know yet. Something tells me they aren't," she admitted. "I'll send someone down to help, in case there's trouble," Caleb said firmly. "Go for it," she encouraged. "I might need it regardless." 1 minute. I need a drink. Well, don't be like that now, water bottle. Aw. You lasted like 6 months. I mean, it didn't help that you got run over. Chapter 37. She disconnected the device and pocketed it, climbing down the stairs. The silence seemed to thicken, each step followed by another heavy sense of dread. "I'm coming," she whispered, not sure whether or not that would do anything, but if Impulse's theory was right, these feelings could work both ways. She managed to make it to the bottom of the stairwell, noticing a tunnel just ahead, branching out into the darkness. She didn't see any sign of her friends. Just seeing the new tunnel unsettled her. She kept walking down the hall, calling out to her friends. No one called back. In fact, her shouts seemed to be drowned out by silence, an almost deafening silence. Gem looked side to side as she walked, listening, paying attention to anything and everything that might give her something. Pearl? Impulse? Meetups? She hollered again, feeling uneasy as she trekked down alone, stopping when she noticed something ahead. She drew closer, leaning down to get a better look at the metal gleaming in the lamplight. They were communicators. Friends, communicators. Gem swallowed, looking up when she heard a low, muffled groan. Pearl? She asked again, unsure what to say next. It was just as likely to be whoever had tried to attack her friends earlier. Suddenly a muffled scream nearly jolted her out of her skin. The hermit dashed to the far wall where the secret tunnel inside the secret tunnel was hidden. She pressed on the camouflage button. The door didn't move. She punched it hard, but nothing budged. Puzzled, she pulled out her pickaxe and broke through the wall. The echoes of a scream reverberated in her ears. She tore through the wall, revealing the hallway behind it. As she peeked inside, nearly dropping her pickaxe, which she saw a figure lying against the wall, not moving. Pearl! She rushed over to her friend, throwing aside the pickaxe as Gem knelt next to her. Pearl's eyes were closed, but she looked peaceful, a bruise starting to form on her forehead, just above her right eye. Gem grabbed her by the shoulders and gently shook her. A moment or two passed before Pearl groaned, but it took a few more attempts before her eyes fluttered up, open. Hey, Pearl said with a smile when she finally saw her. Are you okay? Gem asked quickly, letting her friend go as Pearl struggled to sit up. I'm fine. Gem smiled, looking over her shoulder to see the entrance she'd made. That's good at least. I told you, I'm fine. Pearl chuckled before her expression shifted, her eyes moving down the hall. Where are Impulse and Beat-Ups? Gem asked. She didn't have to read her mind to know what her friend was thinking. Impulse went after the men. They took Beat-Ups, Pearl admitted quietly. That's all I got before I was knocked out. Gem nodded, getting to her feet. Help will be here shortly. I'll go see if I can find them. Please be careful, Gem. They might still be at large. Pearl cautioned, leaning against the wall, her teal eyes full of concern. I'll be careful, Gem promised, quickening her pace as she ran down the hall. Impulse! Beat-Ups! She continued to run, before slowing it down to a fast walk a few moments later, calling out again. The scream from earlier still repeated in her mind. The dread seeming to weigh a ton, like an anvil was being crushed upon her chest. Something was wrong. Very wrong. She had to find them. Impulse! Gem hollered again, hating how her voice cracked as she stopped walking, her eyes tracing the walls of the tunnel before she noticed something ahead. A crack in the wall, revealing the darkness on the other side, as if someone had forced their way in. It was one of the closets that the cause members had built in case they needed a fast way to hide a hermit for any reason. She walked over to the door, looking into the darkness. A sliver of light from the hallway seeped in, revealing another figure inside. She gasped as she attempted to push the door open, jumping when the wall slid off, resulting in a loud thud. She didn't have time to think about it as Gem ran into the room, turning on the light as it flickered to life. She swallowed as she looked down at the figure lying in front of her. She pulled out her medical box, kneeling down to get a better look. She gently rolled the figure onto his back as a lump formed in her throat. Impulse, she whispered, not wanting to speak any louder. She pulled out a bottle of regen and some bandages, seeing the fresh injuries that had been inflicted on her friend. It's very possible the attacker was still here. She couldn't be sure, though. Gem glanced up at the room, her eyes assessing the area. There were no floating bubbles, only a makeshift tunnel at the far wall. Were her friends trying to escape the men? Had the attackers used this tunnel to get in, or try to get them out? She couldn't see Beat-Ups anywhere in the room as dread filled her again. Gem took a slow, shaky breath as she gently cleaned up the injuries, bandaging them carefully. Pulse didn't make much sound, other than a few faint groans. His face pale white. She tried not to think about it too much, as Gem focused on the task at hand. Once the bandages were secure, she lifted her friend's head and let him take the potion. Hearing a soft sigh that resulted. What did they do to you? Gem asked quietly. Her friend didn't respond. Didn't stir. He looked peaceful, at least. Her attention was redirected when she heard footsteps. Gem instinctively tensed, slowly getting to her feet, unsure if she should grab her for a sword or not. She stepped warily toward the hallway as the footsteps neared, looking out before relaxing, seeing Matthias walking down the hall. Pearl told us you to be down here, Matthias replied calmly. Kaden is helping her get upstairs to her room. She'll be okay there? Gem asked nervously. She seemed to think so. Matthias shrugged. The men weren't after her. Beat-ups. Gem's eyes widened as a shudder ran down her spine. They gave her beat-ups. Seems like it, Matthias frowned. Guessing Impulse is inside? Yeah, he's injured, but I took care of it, Gem said quickly, stepping out of the way. It's possible he managed to grab beat-ups and hide it here, but the men followed. Hard to tell for sure, the men nodded, stepping inside as he observed the room. The attackers were relentless. Why beat-ups? Who did it work for? Mr. A, RJ, and Gerald aren't their boss. They're to boss them around, Gem pointed out. That is the question, isn't it? Matthias mused, kneeling next to Impulse to look him over. You should probably get him upstairs to rest while he recovers. What about beat-ups? Gem asked him, walking back to where her friend was lying. I'll send out a team to look for him and get him out of any situation he might be in, Matthias said firmly, looking up at her. Your job is to make sure your friends here are safe, in case they come back for seconds. She swallowed. How likely is that? No more likely than it was before. The man shrugged. I'll let you know if we find anything. Finding him is our priority right now. Gem bit her bottom lip and nodded. Yes, sir. She bent down and lifted Impulse off the hardwood floor, trying her best to ignore the dark stains on the wood before looking at her escort, who had gotten to his feet. You have anything on Beat-up's escort? Gem asked him calmly, seeing them. There's nothing any of us could have done to help him, Matthias replied solemnly. He gave his life to protect your friends. Oh. Gem took a sharp breath, tears stinging her eyes as she nodded. I'm sorry. There's nothing to apologize for, Gem. You and your friends are safe. Matthias put a hand on her shoulder. It's what matters right now. I'll take a look at where this tunnel leads. Why don't you get it back to your base? Okay. Gem agreed, looking down at the sleeping hermit in her arms. She turned away from her escort, walking down into the hallway, lifting her head as she walked forward. How close had she been to her friends? Could she have stopped them from taking beat-ups if she had known? She shook her head, not wanting to think about it any more than she had to. Right now, Matthias was taking control. He'd find him. That was a promise. Gem had to believe they would. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, my nose is doing it again. Oh, no. Yeah. Continue. Chapter 38. Gem walked up the stairs to her base from the tunnel, carrying Impulse firmly. She had arrived at the top to find Caleb waiting for her in the main room. Isaac's not back yet, Gem guessed, seeing the boy's solemn expression. No, but he will be in a few minutes, Caleb reported. Trader decided he wanted to be difficult. Of course, Gem sighed, shaking her head. Anything from him? Not yet. He won't tell us anything. Says he has no need to. Caleb scowled, because he's no longer a part of the cause. That's ridiculous, Gem scoffed, shaking her head. I know. Isaac's might get Rose involved. She'll get him to talk. Caleb managed to smile with that statement. Gem chuckled. Yeah, it's possible we might know where they took beat-ups. They took him? Caleb asked, eyes widening. Yeah, he's missing. Gem sighed, looking down at Impulse as she added. They were only after beat-ups. Why? Caleb frowned, puzzled. I don't know. Gem sighed. Maybe that strange scientist? The boy scowled again. I hope not. Me too, Gem nodded, heading toward the stairs. I'll be upstairs if you need me. The boy didn't say anything, but she didn't need him to either. Gem knew the boy would be right in the action if there was any trouble. She climbed up the steps, hearing the sound of a door open before someone peeked over the railing. "Gem, you're back!" Green's face brightened with relief when he saw her, his expression falling when he saw who she was carrying. "I'm preparing a bed?" she asked calmly. Green nodded, disappearing from view as Gem arrived at the stairs, carrying a hermit. The hermit opened the door. She followed. I don't know what I'm doing. She followed him into another room, glancing around cautiously, not seeing any hidden mechanics. Don't worry about any tunnels. I tried to know which ones didn't have secret entrances, Rhea said quickly, stepping back from the bed that was ready, the sheets pulled back and everything. "Thanks, G," Gem said cheerfully, carrying Impulse to the bed, gently putting him down, ensuring his head rested on a pillow comfortably. Gem pulled the covers over the hermit up to his chin. "He might need a new shirt after that," Green frowned. "I can put one next to him when he wakes up." Gem assured him calmly. "It could have been worse." Green gulped. "Yeah." Gem turned toward him. "He'll be okay. I'm sure he'll be awake in no time." Green smiled sadly. "Yeah." Gem looked away, going over to the window as she pulled the blinds, obscuring the view as the light from the outside faded. It only left a single lamp light overhead. "Where are Pearl and Beat-Ups?" Green asked, hesitantly, walking over to the bed. "Pearl's at her base to rest," Gem said as a lump formed in her throat. "And Bubbles?" Green pressed nervously. "Missing," Gem sighed, shaking her head. Green's face fell again at the word. "Why would they go after him? It's barely been much time since the capture." "I know," Gem agreed. "It just doesn't make sense. It's like this was planned before the rescue mission." Green bit his bottom lip, sitting down on the chair next to the bed. "I know. Why Beat-Ups?" "I don't know," Gem admitted helplessly. Her eyes moved from the window to Impulse. A little color had returned to her sleeping friend's face. Not much, though. "You think that scientist has something to do with it?" Green asked sourly. She looked up at the hermit, his dark eyes hard. "I'm not sure. It's likely," she admitted with a shrug. "No more likely than it had been someone else." "But the scientists after him for months, even after that virus was destroyed," Green pointed out. "That's why he asked for Impulse to help him secure his base to keep the pest away." Jim nodded. Green shuddered. "You better not do anything." Jim managed to smile. "Yeah, definitely." She looked out the darkened window. "We'll find him." "You think so?" Green tilted his head slightly. "I know so," Jim replied, feeling the dread shift to a sense of hope. There was still so much they didn't know. That didn't mean they would give up. Chapter 39. 3 days had passed since the attack. Jem was in the kitchen crafting some more soup, listening to the silence around her. She knew Caleb wasn't too far away, either in the main room or checking in with Green and Scar to see how they were doing. Nothing much had happened outside of the base either. Beat-Ups was still missing, Scar and Impulse were still resting, and Pearl was about done with her recovery. Jem bit her bottom lip, trying to forget the images forming in her mind from what Pearl had told her about what had happened. The moments played over and over in her mind, each time more imaginatively horrible than the last. Pearl, Impulse, and Beat-Ups had been hanging out in the main room, filling Pearl in on the successful rescue mission for Green and Scar, and the capture of the two villains. The story was cut off when they were ambushed by 4 men in Mr. A's uniform. Beat-Up's escort had been in the kitchen and attempted to distract the men while the hermits attempted to escape. They managed to get to the secret tunnel leading to the bunker when the men caught up with them. All Pearl remembered after that was being knocked against the wall and knocked out by a fist, hearing Impulse calling out for Beat-Ups. Jem didn't have to close her eyes to see what her mind was imagining as she finished the soup she was crafting, storing it in the choco box at her feet. She closed the box and picked it up, storing it away before turning into the hallway. It didn't take long before Jem made it to the top of the stairs, seeing the hall was empty, walking down to Scar's room first, hearing a soft meow through the slightly open door as she pushed it open. Jelly slid past her as Jem watched her stride down the hallway, her tail upright and confident. Jem smiled, looking into the room to find Scar sitting up in bed, wiping the sleepers from his eyes. Something that might help if you're still in any pain after that. I think I should be good. Scar beamed, watching her cross the room as she put down the box. Saturation done? She offered. Yeah. Scar nodded. Jem took out the bowl of soup, checking to make sure it had the right petals before handing it to Scar. Thank you. Anytime. Jem smiled gently, returning to the box where she'd taken it from. Feeling better than yesterday? Mm-hmm. Scar replied contentedly. Might be around time I need to start moving around a little bit. She nodded. Yeah, if you're up for it. Oh, I'm more than up for it, Scar said eagerly, finishing his soup as he set the empty empty bowl aside on the table beside the bed. The hermit pushed back the covers, pulling his legs over, his feet touching the hardwood floor. Jem laughed. I don't blame you for wanting to get off bed as fast as possible. I was so close. Scar shook his head in amusement. Do you know where G might be? Either in his room or Pearl's. Either his room, at Pearl's, or up to his normal mischief again. Jem shrugged. Still pretty early in the morning. Scar nodded, looking at the window, which was covered by the curtains. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing a mischievous Korean around here. She giggled, offering him a hand. You want to see if he's up? Scar hesitated for a moment before taking his hand. She helped him get to his feet. The hermit stumbled a little bit before getting his footing. Once Scar was steady, Jem slowly let go of his hand. Don't you have to check in with Impulse? Scar asked simply. I will. I just want to make sure you're settled, Jem encouraged, as Scar walked to the door. I'll be okay, he assured her. Help is always one call away if I need it anyway. Of course, she agreed sadly, following her friend out the hallway. I don't want you to be on your own, though. I know. Scar smiled. I'll be fine, Jem. She watched as he walked over to the next room, knocking on it before opening it, and coming inside. Or going inside, technically. She heard a voice inside the room greet the hermit as Jem smiled. When she was satisfied that Scar was in good hands, she went over to Impulse's room, opening the door as she stepped inside. Jem could see Impulse still sound asleep in his bed. Not much had changed apart from his injuries rapidly healing, as to be expected. The hermit hadn't stirred even once since she'd gotten near. She walked over to the bed, kneeling next to him. She gently shook his shoulders, hoping to stir him. Nothing. She frowned, feeling the hermit's forehead and in his hands. He seemed fine. No fever. He was warm. Everything was stable. Impulse? Impulse, Jem said patiently, hoping that would stir him. Nothing. A twitch of an eyebrow or finger. She frowned, putting down the box, pulling out her communicator for a moment, hesitating. Finally, she pressed a few buttons and a connection came through. Hello? Blake called in. Are you able to spare a few minutes of your time to check on Impulse with me? Something's not right, Jem replied. He still hasn't woken up? Blake asked. Nothing, Jem confirmed. There's no sign of anything. He's stable, but he's not stirring. I could have a look, the boy replied. You could ask Liam about it to see if he has any suggestions. I don't want to take you from your post if you're busy, Jem said quickly. No, it's okay. Isaac's with me. I could drop by for a few and take a look, Blake reassured her. Okay, I'll give him some regen now to finish up the healing process, Jem replied. Injuries are almost gone. Just a few scars. I'll be right up, Blake replied. The call disconnecting as Jem set the device aside, pulling out a regen as she pulled the covers back. Green had helped her get a new fresh shirt on the hermit, covering some of the healing injuries. She pulled out a towel and poured the regen on top of the hermit, knowing that it would finish it. All he had to do was wake up. Impulse, please, Jem insisted quietly. If you can hear me, please, wake up. We need you. Nothing. His features were calm, peaceful, relaxed, still. She swallowed, getting to her feet. Jem pushed the box aside. A minute later, she could hear footsteps coming up the stairs, turning to see Blake appear. The boy greeted her with a smile, coming over to stand next to her. You're right, he does look stable. Yeah, and you can see the injuries are almost gone, she Jem replied. "You think you need to wake up by now?" "Guess we have to wait a little longer," the boy shrugged. "Maybe he still needs time to recover." "Something doesn't feel right," Jem insisted. The boy nodded. "What do you think it is, then?" Jem admitted. "Maybe something else happened that we don't know about, like a strong dose of sleeping potion." "There are no particles," the boy pointed out. "It doesn't have to be. Once the potion wears off, the victim can sleep and continue to sleep for who knows how long." Jem pondered. The boy paused for a moment. "I'll ask around with some people to see if they know anything about something like that and get back to you." "Thank you." She smiled sincerely, the boy returning the smile, giving her a wave, saying he had to go. She didn't try to stop him. He'd given her what she needed. Jem reached for Impulse's hand, squeezing it, hoping he could feel it, hoping he might give her a sign that he was okay. "Please, B. I need you to do something. Anything. Doesn't have to be much." Silence. She let go, taking a seat in the chair by the bed. There wasn't much else she could do right now, apart from waiting. Jump the volley. Yes. I'm doing great. Oh. Hopefully my nose is not causing as much trouble. Not too much trouble, anyway. Apologies if it is. There are no blinks in here. Jem was startled awake by the sound of someone knocking on the door. Her eyes snapped open, not realizing she'd fallen asleep on the chair, looking over to see the door open. Scar was standing in the frame, ahead of the door with a sheepish, apologetic look. She could just about see Green just outside the frame. "Sorry about that," Scar mused quietly as he walked in the room. "Didn't want to startle you." "Honestly, it's probably good you got me up now," she groaned, rubbing the sleepers from her eyes. The sky was a dark purple as the sun began to set. Had another day passed without any news about beat-ups? "What's going on?" "Just wanted to see him," Scar replied, frowning when he looked across the room where Impulse was asleep, resting. Jem got to her feet. "I had Blake checking on him to see if he could figure out what was going on. He looked stable, but something's not right." Scar nodded, walking into the room, approaching the bed. He knelt next to the bed and looked down at Impulse's face for a moment. "Scar?" Green asked, sounding unsure, as she too stepped into the room. Scar bit his bottom lip before managing to smile when looking up at Green. "I'm sure he'll wake soon. It can't be that bad." "Scar," Green repeated, Jem watching the hermit walking toward the other hermit. "So you think maybe?" "Maybe," Scar replied, getting to his feet. Green put a hand on his friend's shoulder. "What were you two talking about before you came here?" Jem asked skeptically. "Scar wanted to know what happened, so I told him about everything," Green stated. When it got to describing Impulse's condition, he wanted to see him. Scar nodded in confirmation. "It's got Royster's work all over it." "Royster?" Jem asked, tilting her head softly. "The scientist who tested on Scar." Green's expression went stone still. He looked over at Scar. "How do you know that?" "Royster gave me a tour of his private lab before testing me with that project of his," Scar admitted, brushing his feet against the floor. I saw animals on tables sleeping so still." Just like Impulse. "But how?" Jem asked. "Do you know if there's anything that could wake him up?" Scar shrugged. "I wasn't able to stick around long enough to find out." "But he's supposed to be dead. He blew up with the rest of the base, right?" Green asked quickly, before adding a squeak. "Right?" "Maybe not," Scar whispered, looking over at Impulse again. "Wonder if something similar to what he was working on, though." "Want to try the antidote?" Jem paused for a moment, lingering on the question. Scar didn't say anything for a moment before nodding. "I mean, it's worth a shot. Not like it's gonna hurt him." "You're right," Jem agreed, starting to take out a box just as the communicator beside her on the table started to vibrate, as the three of them jumped. "Hang on, I need to take this." Jem picked up the device, just able to look at the signal before the device stopped. Perplexed, she examined the device. The light was still blinking. The signal was weak. Getting interference. "What?" Green asked. "Where?" "It's near the portal by the meeting hall." Someone's trying to send a signal, but it's getting murky. She frowned, looking up at the two hermits. I wonder what happened to B-Dubs when he was infected. We need to go. Gray jumped into action. It could be him. How? Besides that he hasn't heard from his team in a bit. Scar pointed out. Gray bolting for the door. It's not unreasonable to think he might get out on his own. Gray reminded him. I managed to do it multiple times. I'm not sure it's B-Dubs, Gray, Jim said cautiously. Doesn't matter. Someone needs help. For all we know, they're in danger. We can't just... No, we need to be smart about this. Let's see if one of the protectors can go with us. She looked over at Scar. Think you can keep an eye on Impulse for me? Of course. Scar straightened, lifting his chin confidently. Don't be long. We'll be careful, Jim promised. Green bolting toward the stairs before she could stop him. The two hermits made it down the stairs, Green slamming open the door, startling both Caleb and Kaden, who'd been talking in the main room, probably for a report. Where are you going? Kaden asked firmly. Jem got a distress signal from someone at the portal near the meeting hall. Green said quickly, We're going to check it out. Should we send out our team for to do that? Kaden asked cautiously. There's no time, Green said confidently, finishing the straps on his wings before grabbing his rockets. Jem caught up with him, putting on around. I wasn't going to let him go alone, Jem told Kaden calmly. You know what she's like. Kaden sighed, grabbing his own rockets, nodding to the boy. I'll get back to you after. Gotta make sure our chargers don't get into too much trouble. Hopefully you're not flying into a trap, Green frowned. Sorry? Caleb frowned, looking between both of them. Another reason why I wouldn't let him go alone, Jem nutted. Green didn't hear her as he launched to the sky. Jem and Kaden followed right behind him. Chapter 41. How are we on time? We're doing fine. We are doing fine. I feel fine. Yes. Jem spotted a clearing with the portal in the darkness of the night. It was hard to miss, with the light of the portal flashing on and off, making an obnoxious sound. If you know, you know. What happened to it, Kate? What's happening to it? Kaden asked curiously. Jem scouted the area, making sure there were no mobs nearby. It should be. With the number of torches in the area, that was never a bad plan to be cautious. It was never a bad plan to be cautious, so. Her eyes traced the area. She spotted a figure lying not too far from the portal. Her blood ran cold when she landed on the grassy ground, crossing the field and kneeled next to the individual. Kaden went over to the portal and nerded off. The shattering of the glass stopped. The silence followed was almost a relief. Also unsettled her. She rolled the figure onto his back, seeing his face in torchlight. Skiz? Green Jem pulled out her medical box, noticing the red veins stretching down the heat of his arms, some starting to crawl onto his neck. Jem gently shook him by the shoulder, hoping to stir him. Skiz groaned, opening his eyes, his piercing blue eyes, as the man looked up at her. His expression was first of confusion, then relief, then dread. Think you can sit up for me? Jem asked calmly. Skiz didn't say anything, nodding as he managed to sit up. Jem could see his shirt was tattered and dirty, as if he hadn't washed it in a few too many days. His pants were also torn, hints of red seeping from the holes. Here, I think this will help. Jem took out a bottle, checking to make sure it was what she was looking for before handing it to him. Skiz smiled, taking the bottle, his hand shaking as he uncorked it, consuming the liquid. Skiz, what are you doing here? How did you get here? Green asked quickly, kneeling next to Jem. Skiz coughed, putting the antidote bottle down. It's fine. Putting the antidote bottle, now empty, aside. Jem could see some of the veins starting to recede, the man shaking his head slowly. Finally, he looked up at them, a look of seriousness in his expression. He spoke hoarsely, as if he'd been screaming for hours, if not days. Where's Impulse? He's safe, Jem said reassuringly. Right now, he's resting, but he'll be okay. Skiz didn't look convinced by her statement, looking over his shoulder nervously. Is something wrong? Kaden asked cautiously, turning the portal back on. Kaden fiddled with something next to the controls as a blinking light stopped. It looked almost like one of the communicators that would be put on the wall, like one of those Impulse soldiers' designs. They were right behind me, Skids admitted quietly. Probably messed up their address then, Green noted, observing the portal. Otherwise, you would have been gone by the time we got here. Right, the man nodded. Managing a smile when he said the word. The smile faded as he struggled to stand, Gem quickly catching him as he fell. Let me help, she encouraged, helping him man to his feet. Skids didn't resist as she studied him before letting him go. What happened to you? Skids shook his head again. That's not important. What matters is making sure Dibbledop is okay. He is, Gem pressed. Skids stared at her, his expression like stone. Sure didn't feel like it. Gem swallowed, looking over at Green, the hermit's face growing a few shades paler. We should probably get back, Gem said nervously, looking up into the dark sky. It's giving me bad flashbacks. The group did anarchy as he took off into the sky, Gem grabbing Skids' arm. The YouTuber's face looked pale and exhausted, but there was a fire within that kept him pushing, kept him going. Skids' words still echoed in her mind as she flew back. Impulse looked stable, looked peaceful and calm. He'd just been resting. She knew something was right. Now Skids was here, demanding to see his friend, dread-filled hermit. She kept her eyes forward, trying to reassure herself that it would be fine. Everything was fine. It wasn't, though. Beat-Ups was still missing. Impulse hadn't woken up, and now Skids has arrived to them, infected with a virus. Beat-Ups has told them all was destroyed. Something was missing. She wasn't sure, but it wasn't adding. What? But it wasn't adding up. The group arrived back at the space safely, Gem catching Matthias standing by the door of her base, his arms crossed. She ignored him, landing onto the ground gently. Skids immediately pulled away from her and attempted to run to the base, stumbling before falling to his knees. The potion is still doing its work, Gem told him gently, as she helped him to his feet again. It'll be easier in a few minutes. Skids snorted, managing a smile. Matthias approached, his expression softening when he saw them. You're all accounted for? Matthias asked calmly. Yes, sir, Gem said confidently. I couldn't let G go alone, so Kenny went with us. We got to his distress call from Skids. We couldn't risk waiting. All right, the man breathed out his eye, shaking his head. Any news on beat-ups? Green asked him quickly. Matthias frowned, looking around them, out into the darkness beyond the walls. None I can tell you out here. Wait, beat-ups is missing? Skids asked, startled by this news. Yeah, he disappeared shortly after we captured Gerald and Mr. A, Green reported. Wait, you did? Skids trailed off before shaking his head. What happened? Let's get inside. We can talk about everything there, Gem offered, guiding him toward the door. I need to see Dibbledop. Skids insisted firmly. He's in trouble. Your friend is resting, Matthias said reassuringly. I've been told, Skids said doubtfully. Gem bit her bottom lip to hold back a chuckle. I'll bring you to him. Do you want to wait with Matthias, G? Green shrugged. I'm fine with that. Gem nodded, walking to the door, opening it as they went inside. She could hear people behind her. Gem took Skids over to the stairs as the man pulled away from her again, grabbing onto the railing as he started to climb. He's on the second room to the left, next to Scar's and Green's rooms, she said calmly. Gem said calmly. I asked Scar to keep an eye on him. Skids didn't respond, arriving at the top of the stairs. He ran to the room that she said, stumbling aside it. Gem caught up with him, making it to the doorframe, looking inside to see Skids standing in front of the bed. Scar looked a little startled to see the man, but stayed seated on the chair by the bed. Skids? Gem asked gently. Walking over to him, she could see the confusion on his face. He looks so peaceful, Skids whispered, almost in disbelief. I know, he does. Gem agreed calmly. Something isn't right. You feel it too? Skids looked over at her. He didn't have a smile on his face. She nodded. It hasn't changed much over the last few days. Skids bit his bottom lip and nodded. I feel like I need to tell you something. What is it? Gem asked, looking up at him. Skids hesitated for a moment, kneeling next to the bed as he grabbed Impulse's hand, holding it firmly in his. I'm not entirely how long I've been gone, he admitted. I was ambushed by some of Mr. A's men and taken to some underground lab of some kind. There was a scientist who was curious about me and wanted to talk to me about things. He showed me around. I saw some of his experiments, his examinations, and we talked. Talked about the weather, the current state of our lives. The man paused for a moment, trying to regain himself. Then he asked me about the time he'd called and he tested me with the resident virus. He wanted to know how the antidote had worked. He wanted to know how he could recreate it, bigger and deadlier than ever. He felt like he was so close. He wanted to try something with me. Meister, Scar said, almost too quiet to hear. The hermit stood. That's his name? Skiz asked, puzzled. He's a scientist too. Heard me. Scar said hesitantly. It could be one and the same, Gem said quickly. They could have taken beat-ups there. Scar's eyes brightened with hope at the words. What did he want with beat-ups for? What did he want beat-ups for? Skiz asked, puzzled. I never saw him there. You could have been in different areas of the lab, Gem explained. The scientists could be trying to make an antidote, or a version of the virus that is immune to the antidote we have. Skiz shuddered, shaking his head. I've missed a lot. How did you get out? Scar asked. Gem was fairly certain he was trying to shift the subject. My infection went a little bit haywire than expected. I felt a strong urge that my buddy, Impulse, was in danger. It was always there, the sense of dread, but it was just hit me so hard during an experiment that the reaction exploded the machine I was trapped in. I survived, somehow. I just booked it out of there. That was today? Jim asked, looking down at Impulse again. Yeah, Skiz whispered. It doesn't make sense, though. If he's been like this for 3 days. It might, actually, Jim said thoughtfully, looking over his kids. You two are linked, and I did ask him a few hours ago to do something. His kids met her gaze, surprised, and then smiled. He squeezed Impulse's hand firmly, whispering something she could hear into his hermit's ear. I had an idea to try the antidote to see if it did anything, Scar offered. It could be similar to one of the viruses, which we would need something special. Like a golden apple? Skiz asked quickly. Maybe, Scar shrugged. It was an idea we were going to try when you called. Skiz nodded apologetically. I tried to call him, to call you, like before, but whatever communicated was destroyed. Scar mused sheepishly. It's okay. He didn't know. At least you had my cords, she smiled. Yeah. Skiz nodded slowly, letting go of Impulse's hand as he stood. We should probably do what we can to get him away. I'll find Matthias and report what I know. Are you sure you don't want to help? Scar asked curiously. Skiz looked at him seriously. I am helping. He disappeared in the door before the hermit could respond. What do you think you saw that made him do something like that? Scar asked obviously. Do you think Impulse showed him something? Gem hesitated. Scar shrugged. Just a thought. She tilted her head curiously. Are there any golden apples in your inner chest by any chance? Yeah, I think so, Scar said quickly, jumping into action as he practically lunged toward the chest at the corner of the room. And Gem took out her box and pulled out an antidote, looking at its contents for a moment before heading to the brewing stand, stealing a glance at Impulse. She could have sworn she'd seen an eye twitch, but perhaps she was imagining it. How is everybody doing? Just me right now. $50 minutes? Yeah. About 50 minutes. Nice. Gem pulled out the antidote from the brewing stand. The potion finally finished brewing. She walked over to the bed and knelt next to her sleeping friend, holding his head up with a hand, allowing the smooth liquid to pour through his lips and down his throat. Once the bottle was empty, she put the bottle aside, lowering her friend's head. Both Gem and Scar stood there, waiting, watching. Nothing happened for a few agonizing moments. Do you think it's working? Scar asked nervously. She checked Impulse's pulse. He's still stable, at least. So you were right about part of it. Scar nodded, looking down at the sleeping hermit. I'm not sure what else to do at this point. If this doesn't work, he will wake up, Gem pressed, getting to her feet, stand next to him. Is that defiance or hope? He looked at her curiously, with only his eyes. Perhaps both. She shrugged. Gem knelt down again, grabbing for her friend's hand. Impulse worried about you. Please, wake up. She squeezed the hermit's hand gently, hearing the distant cry of a phantom at night. Gem. Scar took a sharp breath. The hermit looked up, seeing a slight movement And the hermit turned his head. Impulse? Gem asked, squeezing the hermit's hand again. It's working? I think he's working. Scar gasped, kneeling next to her. Nothing happened for another moment before the two of them heard a soft groan. It escaped the hermit's lips. Slowly, but surely, the hermit began to stir more and more until his eyes finally opened. Impulse looked sleepy, blinking several times as if confused. Where's B-Dubs? Is he okay? Impulse asked drowsily, looking up at the two faces smiling at him. He's still missing, Gem said gently. We're getting close to finding him. How close? Impulse asked, struggling to sit up, falling down at the attempt. The phone is still doing its work. Try to relax, Gem said calmly. But Impulse started his sentence, falling off with a yawn. Why am I so tired? What do you remember about what happened? Gem asked softly. Impulse rose to his side a little to face them. It's still a little fuzzy, Impulse admitted. He reached for his head. I'm not sure what's real or not. What do you mean? Scar asked, a smile fading from his face. I don't know, it's just... Impulse trailed off, managing to push himself up. Gem and Scar got to their feet. Impulse shook his head. We were ambushed. Pearl and B-Dubs were in trouble. B-Dubs was being taken out. Impulse put his head in his hands, his feet. Pearl told us he went after B-Dubs. She was knocked out, but unharmed, Scar replied encouragingly. Perhaps it jogged the hermit's memory. Gem found you unconscious in one of the hidden closets, injured. Impulse groaned, more to himself than the other two. Where's B-Dubs? Gone. They took him. Gem shook her head. My best guess was the tunnel. I heard a scream and I... Impulse lowered his hands, looking over at her with a frown. I heard you. Heard of me? Gem asked, glancing over his car. You said you were coming. Impulse smiled. One of the men went after me. I had managed to free B-Dubs and hide in the closet when they tore after us. One of them went for me. I couldn't get away fast enough. He closed his eyes and he shook his head. All I really remember is pain and a weird chorus flower scent. Chorus flower? Gem frowned. Impulse nodded. That's what it smelled like. A chorus flower. Gem took a slow deep breath. She wasn't sure what to say to that. It certainly didn't sound like any other sleeping potion she'd heard of. What abilities do chorus flowers have? Scar asked. No idea, Gem frowned. I never had one. You? No, Scar frowned. He paused for a moment. Graham might have tried one once. When? Gem asked in surprise. A couple years back. It was a tear. He lost a bet and had to eat chorus flower. The purpose fruit. So I have to say he had a good night's sleep. I thought chorus fruit was supposed to help you teleport. Impulse asked, looking at Scar. Maybe it does that, but the petals aren't meant to be. Scar frowned. What would happen if you brewed that into a potion? Impulse shuddered. Nothing fun. What do you mean? What did you see? Gem asked, curiously. Impulse pushed back the covers, pulling his legs in front of the bed. She sat down next to him. It's hard to explain. Impulse admitted. I felt trapped inside a cage that moved around constantly with me inside. I felt like I was falling into a void. I couldn't see anything, couldn't feel anything. Sometimes I could hear things, like a flapping of a dragon's wings, a roar of a dragon. I heard you, I heard Scar, I heard the kids and Gem asked, seeing a look of terror in his friend's eyes. B-Dubs. I heard him too. Impulse tightened his fist, staring down at the floor. He was screaming. He was so much pain. I felt helpless to stop it. I couldn't stop it. Then I heard you asking me to do something. He gave me something to hold on to. I tried to send a message, but the cage was prohibiting it, so I tried something else. Wait! Scar stopped him from continuing on. He says he felt a huge wave of dread that hit him so hard it sent an infection in where you are. The kid was infected? Impulse said, startled. Was. Impulse reassured him. The antidote worked. Okay. Impulse breathed a sigh of relief. Yeah, he managed to get out and found us. Scar paused, looking at Gem. You think because of that B-Dubs was able to get out? A wave of dread filled her. She looked over at Impulse. We need to find him before they do. 43. Skiz! And Gem shouted as she bolted for the stairs, crossing the hall. She heard something crash onto the floor as footsteps entered the main hallway. What is it? What's wrong? Skids asked quickly. Is the boss okay? If boss is awake, she confirmed, grabbing onto the railing at the top of the stairs. YouTuber's frantic blue eyes relaxed a little. I need to ask you something. When your infection went berserked, what exactly happened? There was an explosion, Skids frowned, grabbing for the railing at the bottom of the Matthias was right behind him. Green was still in the main room. I woke up to see everyone lying all around me. They hadn't moved, and I don't think they'd just knocked out. All the redstone machinery was off. Power circuit in. Gem swallowed, nodding. It's possible Vito's got shut out. Apologies. I did not say anything. Gem swallowed, nodding. It's possible Vito's got out shortly after you. I'm embarrassed. The YouTuber returned the nod and turned to Matthias. We need to find where they could be, especially if he followed me. Would the mess up after we left, depending on how far along he was. Matthias nodded, pulling out the communicator just as it started buzzing. He pressed the button and the signal went through. Hello? There's a situation at the meeting hall. You might want to check it out, sir. Everything's going mad, and the prisoner escaped. Escaped? How? Matthias asked. The redstone is going berserk, sir. That's the only explanation I have, the person on the other side said. Beat-ups. Skids walked over to the device, swiping them over to... Excuse me. Beat-ups, Skids said, walking over to Matthias, swiping the device from him. Did you see anyone else there? Like one of us? Not from here. Should I scout around? The speaker asked. If you find Beat-ups, make sure he's okay, in case there's trouble. We're coming with an antidote, Matthias replied, stealing the communicator back from Skids. Yes, sir, the speaker confirmed, just as the device went static. We need to hurry, Skids gulped, looking at Gem. Do you have an antidote on you? I used the one that I had in my shulker box. I might know where Impulse might have stored some, though, Gem asked. Get it, Skids said, lifting his chin. Gem said nothing, bolting down the hall to her storage room. She slammed open the door, running to the far chest. She smiled when she found a couple of extra bottles Impulse crafted and saved for the rescue mission, just in case they need more. She grabbed one, storing it safely into her pocket. I don't know. Originally, I said she grabbed two because it was supposed to be something else, but I changed that storyline. So, don't worry about that. I feel like I want to do a comma right there. Right there. That it? Yep, that was it. She grabbed one, storing it safely into her pocket. Gem made it back to the stairs, panting. I got it. Come on, then. Skids insisted, the hermit running down the stairs to meet them. Matthias opened the door, glancing warily at Green. Might be better if you stay here, Matthias told him calmly. If there's a problem, I'd rather have to worry about 3 of you than 4. Green smirked. That's probably best. Be careful. I won't let anything happen to anyone, Skids promised him firmly. Matthias tossing Skids a pair of spare wings as the YouTuber donned them on. How many spares do you have? Jim asked him curiously. One of your friends might have gone on an investigation, Matthias shrugged. Man lent me some. I mean, I didn't say who. It could be anyone. I appreciate it, Skids nodded, launching off into the night sky. Gem followed, not too far behind. She scanned the ground below, spotting any zombie, skeleton, creeper, or spider she could find. Some perched on trees, while others loomed creepily on the earth below, obscured by branches. It was very dangerous down there, Gem frowned, looking up to see the meeting hall ahead. Sure enough, she could see, even from here, that things weren't normal. Has to be him, Skids insisted, shouting out, Beat-ups, we're coming, buddy! I could have said homie. I could have. It works. She followed the YouTuber, spotting a few soldiers running by the building. She followed Skids' gaze, seeing he noticed it too. Her blood ran cold when she heard a familiar scream. Stay away from me! Gem landed on the roof of the hole, landing not too far behind. 4 cause members were cornering her figure. Sure enough, there needs to be a space there. At the front of the small group of 4 men was the traitor. Oh, this is going to be fun. Skiz smirked, pulling out a sword. I'll distract him while you get beat up somewhere safe to help him. I want to give him the antidote as soon as possible, Gem warned. It seems to be really bad. If what Impulse told me was true. What did you say? Skiz raised an eyebrow. I'll explain later. Right now, someone needs our help. She pressed. Should have thought of that before coming here. The traitor sneered. Beat-Ups let out a painful sob as the lights in the base flashed again. His face looked ghostly pale. They were running out of time. I saw what you did. What did I do? Beat-Ups whimpered. You know what you did, the man sneered. We know what you did too, and I'm sure it's far worse than what he could have done, Skid said defiantly. The man looked up, startled to see the YouTubers and Matthias, both before composing himself. You don't know what you're talking about, the man snapped. You resigned 3 days ago after betraying your charge one last time, causing Beat-Up's capture in Impulse's condition, Jim said firmly. Now you're trying to cover your tracks, so you don't look bad. Impulse? Beat-Ups asked quietly, the lights flickered again. His voice sounded small, as if he'd shrink into the earth and disappear. If I wanted to clear my record, I could have done it, the man sneered, extending his sword. The more power he takes from the machine, the stronger he gets. We need to finish him before he finishes us. Not on my watch, Matthias warned, jumping down. The 2 YouTubers followed him, creating a shield separating the men from the hermit. I'm not sure whose side your friends are on, but I know clearly whose side you're on, and it's not mine. Why do you even care? This guard is dead. He's nothing to you, the man snapped angrily. Gem heard the stuttering gasp behind her. She looked over at Skid. Now, she mouthed at him. The man nodded, Skid stepping in front of her. She pulled out one of the antidote. Oh, sorry. I didn't fix that either. Boop. Stop her! The man hollered angrily, charging toward her. Gem glanced over her shoulder, seeing Skids blocking the man as she uncorked the potion. She looked back, meeting the hermit's eyes. She gasped in surprise. Your eyes are purple. I was told. The hermit groaned. Gem scooted to him, offering the potion to the lips. This should help, even if it has an extra kick to it. She smiled. It worked with Impulse anyway. It's okay? The hermit asked weakly. He is now. She nodded gently, placing the bottle to the hermit's lips. Beat-Ups consumed the liquid, letting out a long relief sigh. Gem, look out! They shouted. Gem looked up as the traitor lunged at her again, managing to knock Skiz aside. She glanced over her shoulder, repairing the shield Beat-Ups just as Matthias came to her aid, tackling the man to the ground. She saw the other 3 men lunging towards Skiz as she cried out his name. The hermit leaped into action. The YouTuber leaped into action, dodging the man as he grabbed for his sword. Get Bubbles inside! Skiz shouted back to her. Gem stumbled to her feet, helping the other hermit up. Are you sure? Beat-Ups asked nervously. You'll be fine, she promised, wrapping an arm around him, getting him into the building. She heard shouts from outside, but didn't dare turn to see what was going on. The door slammed behind them. She glanced back to see Skiz at the door, bolting the lock in place. What about Matthias? Gem asked wearily. She's got back up. Skiz smiled reassuringly. He gestured to one of the chairs. Why don't you sit down for a minute, Beat-Ups? I'm not sure what's going on, Beat-Ups admitted quietly, taking a seat. Gem looked over at the door nervously. She could hear someone banging on it. You could break it down, she replied, glancing up to the loft above. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. We'll be ready if he does, Skid said confidently, looking over at Beat-Ups. Whoa, what happened to you, buddy? Skid Beat-Ups smiled sheepishly. Weird side effects of combining these things. Gem shuddered. What did he do to you? He wanted to test my immunity, the hermit said. He injected me with a recreation of the redstone infestation. Well, less strong as the first one, but with the end came the second one. purple substance. Chorus flower. Gem breezed. She get knocked out too? Uh-huh. Beat-ups frowned, looking at the door. There's a lot of commotion outside. Must have been dampened by the redstone, Skids mused. No, it had different effects. I was out for a day, but it made the redstone far stronger. I could do anything through the pain, agony, and noise. Until the power went out. Skids snickered. You're welcome. That was you? Beat-ups' eyes widened. Kind of. Skids shook his head. I'm not even sure how that happened. Impulse, Gem giggled. How? Skids asked quickly. He was trying to send a message, but couldn't, so he sent Beat-ups' threat to you. Gem explained. I think that's what it sounded like. Oh my, Beat-ups chuckled. That must have been huge to cause something like that. So Impulse was in danger, Skid admitted not humbly. He needed me. He did, Gem sighed, looking out the door again. It's gone quiet. Sure enough, the commotion outside had stilled. Everything was calm and peaceful, as if they hadn't just been hiding from traitors and killers. Matthias? Skids called out, jumping when the three heard a trap door open. Come on, may it be best to go through here, the escort said simply. The traitors have retreated, but they'll be back. They could be waiting for us down there. Beat-up swallowed, but he got to his feet anyway. Not all four of them, Matthias assured him. They wouldn't expect it. I need to get you three to safety. Lead the way, Gem agreed, crossing the room. Her friends followed her. No one said anything as they descended. Gem hoping they'd get back safely before something happened, or someone got hurt. Someone else got hurt. Oh. Oh, yeah, God. Yeah, I'm fine. Mm-hmm. Whew. Got 4 more chapters, I think. 3 or 4 anyway. It's not starting to run down back of my throat. Yay! It does not feel good. It does not feel good. Gem walked down the hallway, following Matthias, who was leading the way. She had her arm wrapped around Beat-ups for support. Skids were taking the rear, glancing over her shoulder every now and then. I'm not sure they're following us, Gem tried to reassure him. Let's see it with the hidden invisibility detectors. Impulse and Tangle set up. Skids hesitated for a moment before nodding. Gem followed his gaze, spotting a hint of a light near the floor. Sure enough, spotting one of the detectors. They were working as intended. I'm just being cautious, Skid said calmly. You look nervous, like one of the guys might jump out of nowhere and attack us, Skid Beat-ups amused. They might, Skid shrugged. How could they get here so fast to cut us off? Gem asked him simply. Speed? Skid suggested. Possible, but they wouldn't get here fast enough even at twice the speed, Science reported, without being spotted. Or they could have shortcuts, Beat-ups pointed out. That's how they managed to catch up to me per own impulse so quickly. Gem shuddered. What would have happened if he'd sent a signal from the communicators? I don't know, Beat-ups admitted. We wanted to wait until we were hidden to call for help, but they came out of nowhere. We didn't have a chance. More reason to be cautious, Skids pointed out. That guy could be here with his backup quickly, in that case. Unless they're not going for us, Beat-ups nervously, looking down at the floor, stumbling at a stop. Kept steady with the help of Gem. Gem bit her bottom lip. Are you thinking they might try to go after the others? I don't know, Beat-ups sighed. Maybe? Skids tensed at those words. We need to get back to make sure the others are okay. The invisibility detectors should be up there. It should be working. So it's not like they'll pass by undetected if they try, Gem reminded him. This else is the bunker. Right, Skids replied with a nod, before looking over at Matthias. What are your thoughts about it? It never hurts to be careful. I'll go in with you so we have at least 2 protectors in the building. Matthias replied. In case there is trouble, we can call for backup if needed. Sounds like a plan to me, Skids said happily, not sounding as wary as he had before. The YouTuber still looked over his shoulder after he said that, though. My base is just ahead here, Gem reported, pointing to the stairs at the front. Should we get Beat-ups upstairs or just plan to hide out in the bunker for a while? probably the safer option. Matthias frowned. That way we'll know where everyone is and keep you safe. Yeah, Beat-Ups giggled nervously. I don't want to be sent back there. You won't, Skid said defiantly. That scientist is going to pay for what you put us through. Gem nodded. And a good smile climbed on her face as the three of them arrived at the stairs leading up. Gem climbed the steps with Beat-Ups, keeping her eyes forward, hearing the sound of voices before they went quiet once the group neared. It's okay, it's just us, Skid hollered, cupping his hands around his mouth before putting him down, grinning. Gem heard footsteps once they neared the top, spotting Impulse coming toward them. Scar peeking out from the doorway curiously. You're back, the hermit replied happily. Skid's pushing Gem aside to tackle Impulse into a hug. I'm so glad you're okay, buddy, Skid said in relief. You gave me quite a scare. Did? Impulse asked, pulling away with a sliver of a smile. Yeah, Beat-Ups giggled. Are you alright? Impulse asked the hermit. I'm fine, Beat-Ups smiled gently. Not in any pain anymore, at least. Your eyes are still a little purple, Skid pointed out. A little? Beat-Ups frowned. A little, Skid grinned. She'll be gone before tomorrow. Gem looked out the window, noticing the sun was just about beginning to rise. She looked over at the two hermits. Were you two up all night? After sleeping for 3 days straight? Yeah, it's no surprise I'm not tired, Impulse chuckled, glancing over at Scar. Scar couldn't sleep. Nightmares? Gem guessed. Scar smiled at her sheepishly. How did the mission go? Scar asked. The prisoner got away with his friends, Skid said sourly. Beat-Ups lowered his head. It's my fault. No, Gem said quickly. It's not your fault. You were trying to get help. You couldn't control it. Yes, Skid said defiantly before asking, Where's Grant? Matthias was thinking of putting everyone in the bunker, the secret bunker to hide out for a little bit, in case the guys try to come back. But doesn't he know about the bunker? Impulse asked with a frown. Everyone here knows about it. Well, 6 one's far brighter odds, am I right? Skids pushed with a smile. Yeah, Impulse nodded. She's upstairs. He went to sleep after you left. Get up. We'll need to plan to have a sleepover elsewhere, Skids replied, looking over at Matthias. I'm expecting you to keep an eye out for trouble. No doubt about it, Matthias said confidently. Impulse went for the stairs. Scar went to the secret room on the stairs. Gem led Beat-Ups over as the door opened. I can take him down for you, Scar offered calmly. I have my fresh and new bow ready for anyone who tries to get to us uninvited. Be careful, Scar, Gem insisted, as Scar pulled Beat-Ups from her. I will, Scar promised, walking into the room, just as a muffled scream was heard upstairs. Grian! Beat-Ups gasped, his eyes wide. Get to the bunker. Skids and I will take care of it, Gem reassured him, closing the door behind the two hermits. She looked back to see Skids was already charging up the stairs, following shortly behind. 45. Gem made it to the top of the stairs, where she heard another scream, sounding much closer than it had on the main floor. She gasped when she saw someone being thrown out of a room, hitting the wall hard with a thud. Doubled up! Skids ran over to the hermit, who was groaning in pain. I'm okay. There's 2 guys in there with Green. The hermit didn't finish his sentence when Skids got to his feet and barged into the room. Gem ran over to Impulse, helping him to his feet. The 2 of them ran into the room, blocking the doorway as Gem froze. I wouldn't move if I were you, a tall man in a lab coat said firmly, holding a squirming Green with one arm, while a burly man guarded them, glaring at Skids, as if in warning. How did you get in here? Skids demanded. Shouldn't be too hard for you to figure that out, the man asked, looking at Skids with a smirk. How's your friend doing? Which one? He targeted a few. Skids narrowed his eyes. I suggest you let Green go if you know what's best for you. Why would I do that? The man raised an eyebrow. Gem noticed Green staring at her as they met eyes. He was mouthing something to her, but neither of the men could hear. Impulse beat her to it, though. I mean, we could call a doc and see what he has to say about it. The scientist scowled. Do you think I care about what he thinks? It's nothing. He is the one who destroyed your lab, Gem said confidently, pulling out her communicator. Destroyed all your work, Royster. She smiled cold. Well, Green was the one with the communicator to tell him about it. I never called him. Green squeaked helplessly. I highly doubt that, the man scowled. It was probably your idea. You probably wished I was in the building when you exploded. Now didn't you? Don't you? Green squirmed again. Jem could see Impulse cautiously pull something out of his pocket. Jem took a step forward, hiding the action as she pulled out her sword. Let him go, Royster. It's no use trying to stop us. It's 3 against 2. Yet I have a hostage, the man grinned. As if that means anything, Skitz retorted. Royster pulled something out of his pocket with his free hand. An iron dagger. Jem tensed when it gleamed a purple hue. One of my men found this in one of your friend's pockets. It's mine now. Jem noticed something else on the blade as the man swished it back and forth playfully. The iron looked almost purple in dim light and sunlight. Not just from the hue either. Before she could say anything or note her finding, a pearl flew overhead and shattered behind the guard as the Royster yelped in surprise. An Impulse lunged on top of the scientist as the dagger flew from his hand. Kids, get the blade! Jem shouted as she charged at the burly man, who attempted to turn and get to Impulse. She tackled the man as they both tumbled, hitting the mark with her sword. I don't know. Hitting her mark, I don't know. I don't know. That's better. As the man grunted in pain. You'll get that girl, the soldier grunted, knocking her off as she rolled onto the hardwood floor. Jem! Korean warned at the man getting to his feet. The hermit took a nervous step back, away from the fight. Jem got to her feet slowly, still holding her blade. The man clutched his side, grimacing, as he pulled out another dagger. There was no purple hue, but she could still see something like purple powder. She charged toward Korean, standing in front of him as the man lunged. She blocked the dagger with her sword, smelling a hint of flour as she narrowed her eyes. Your eyes are quite pretty, the soldier mused with a smile. Not for long. You're a monster, she said coldly. Jem said coldly, and Matthias ran into the room. She looked over to the Impulse, lunging at the man. Having been freed from the tangle of the scientist, Skitz checked to make sure the Royster was knocked out. The man grunted in surprise again, turning around. Turning on his attacker. Jem felt a scream catch in her throat as the blade flew through the air, grabbing for the man's arm, missing the two of them as the two of them fell to the floor. Get away from him, you! Skitz fumed, going to help the hermit, but Matthias beat him to it, grabbing the burly man and pulling him away as the dagger fell harmlessly on the floor next to Impulse. The hermit's eyes were wide with surprise and fear. You okay? Jem asked cautiously, offering a hand. He seemed to have been harmed as Impulse smiled, taking the hand to get to his feet. I'm fine, Impulse replied, looking over to Korean. Jem followed his gaze, seeing the hermit look shaken, but unharmed. I don't think you'd be able to say that lightly, and a voice said right from across the room. Jem whirled her head around, seeing the traitor picking up the communicator she dropped. How did you get in here? Jem demanded. Jem shrugged. No one else was here. I just walked in. Now, I have a mission requirement to fulfill. He pressed a button on the device. Nothing happened. Not at first, until the device started to crackle to life. Her blood ran cold when she heard a voice on the other end. Chapter 46. Oh no. Jem picked up the dagger lying between her and Impulse, holding it in her hand, keeping her eyes on the man. Hello? The voice from the machine came again. Jem, is that you? Not exactly, but I have her. The trader said, no problem doing what I want with her if you don't do something for me to earn her back. Are you being serious? Jem asked, raising an eyebrow. I can literally throw this dagger at you right now. The voice on the computer laughed. How's it going, Jem? Right now, this guy is being a jerk, she mused, pushing Impulse behind her as she approached the man. I have backup. Well, okay. The first replied, so you're okay. The only one who won't be okay is a liar, Jem mused, snatching the device from his hand. whispered. You really think that's my plan was a ransom note? It was a total last time, remember? Gem hesitated for a moment, looking down at the device, feeling a wave of unease fill her. The man knew where her friends were, which probably meant whoever he was working for did too. Go into lockdown and don't come out until Rose finds you, Gem said sternly, not letting a response through as she disconnected it. She pocketed the device, looking up at the man. You're pathetic. I know, the man grinned, bolting for the door. Get him! Skiz called back, Gem barreling after him, tackling him as the man tried to throw a pearl. The pearl fell on the floor harmlessly as he grunted. Skiz, can you give me a hand? Gem grunted, trying to hold the man down. I'm here, the YouTuber said quickly. Gem let the man grab the trader, pinning his arms behind him before winding up the rope. You know where you're hiding. We know where you're hiding them, the trader scowled. Which was? You know of a couple. She narrowed her eyes. Both, the man scoffed. Just because our head man is gone doesn't mean we can't retaliate. You're lucky you got to talk to them one last time. It often doesn't happen that way. Ignore him. He's just being a jerk right now. Skid slapped the man across the cheek. Why don't you shut it before I do it for you? The man didn't say anything more as Gem got to her feet. Are you okay? Impulse asked, standing at the doorway. Green right behind him, Gem pocketing the blade she'd been holding, looking down at the man before back at her friends. Yeah, she tried her best to sound confident. My friends will be okay. How did they find them? Green asked nervously. I merely looked at the past history of your devices, the trader mused. He scowled when he had it. Didn't work for you, unfortunately, because you never set one for your friends. Shame, Green said with a shrug. Really is. But I'm sure he'll find them. And then you won't be holding your head so high, the man yelped when his kids clapped him. You could threaten him with that dagger. He knows what it was on it, Gem pointed out. YouTuber smirked. You three get down to the bunker. I'll help Messiah's round these three guys up and meet you there. Gem nodded, heading toward the stairs as the other two followed. What's the dagger do? Impulse asked curiously. It has that ugly new virus, Gem frowned, taking out her own. See? Impulse failed, nodding. I see. She pocketed again. I'll have to see if Liam is willing to grab one for testing to see if he can find an antidote for it. I know we have an option, but if someone does find a way to make it immune to ours, it's a good backup. Right, Green replied. I really hated that. Oh, he can't hurt you now, Gem smiled, reaching for the railing of the stairs, or anyone for the matter. You'll get justice for what he deserves. Green returned the smile. Three of them went down the stairs to the secret room. Gem opened the door, freezing in her tracks. She saw what was inside. What is that? Jerk, Impulse hissed, pushing Gem aside as he ran into the room, which was torn to shreds. The trapdoor had been yanked open, nearly off its hinges, the wall half torn apart, revealing the secret staircase leading down. Beat up, Scar! Can you hear me? Gem glanced back to Green, who now looked paler than minutes before. She followed Impulse down the stairs, Green right behind. Impulse calling for their friend again. They arrived at the bottom of the stairs. Seeing the room was also a mess. Beds and chests were thrown everywhere. Items were floating. Part of the wall was broken. She couldn't see anyone in the room, or anyway, they could have gotten out. Impulse ran over to the corner of the wall that was untouched, lifting a tile of the floor and pressed a button. A hidden room opened behind it. The three of them went inside. Oh, it's you guys, beat up gasped in relief. Impulse tackled the hermit into a hug. Scar joined in, looking just as relieved. You knew that would come in handy. Scar beamed, pulling away as the others did the same. That was terrifying, Beatus admitted with a smile. How did they not find you? Green asked. I don't know, Scar chuckled nervously. I thought they would. We were so quiet. There were three of them down here with us. We heard an alarm distantly beyond the wall before it went quiet. Next thing we knew, there were men trying to tear through the walls to find us. Swear they were, Impulse said sourly before smiling. At least you didn't know about the hidden closet I added. And a secret tunnel leading to the meeting room, just in case. Beatus pointed out calmly. Mm-hmm. Impulse smile widened. Gem gave him a side hug. You've become a hero without even trying. She teased. I'm glad you're on our side. Where else would I be? Impulse replies before looking back at the door. Probably should find the protectors. Down here isn't safe. I couldn't agree more. Beatles went over to the door, looked out. It's going to be a mess to clean up. Yeah, next time we don't tell a lot of people where our hidden places are. Impulse nodded, gesturing to the group to follow. For the group to follow, heading out of the room. Gem glanced around the room warily, noticing the invisibility detectors in here were also destroyed. Unease felt her. She made it to the stairs, letting her friends go first, squinting back to make sure she couldn't see anything. Gem? Impulse asked nervously, just a few steps ahead of her, noticing she hadn't started her ascent. Just making sure no one's invisible down here, she said wearily. Impulse smiled gently. I honestly don't blame you. It's been a really long night. She nodded. Can't we all just have a nice, peaceful sleep without worrying about people trying to hurt us? We'll make it work, he promised. You still have to tell Rose about the threat. Right, I'll do that, Gem smiled. That traitor really was a jerk, Impulse chuckled. At least he can be a jerk behind bars. Where he belongs. Gem lifted her chin, following her friend upstairs, relaxing when she saw Skiz and Kaden waiting for them on the top, the others having informed them of what happened. Gem was honestly ready for some sleep. It had been a long night, and she was exhausted, trying her best to hide her yawns. She did manage to slip in some time to talk to Rose about what had happened, wanting her to check on her friends as soon as she was able, before going to find her room, climbing into bed, and sleep. It was what they needed after a night like that. Resilience is done. Resilience is complete. There's nothing else. See? Nothing else. No secrets. I am not hiding any secrets from you. Except you already know what the title. If you've seen the start of these streams, you already know the title of the next book. You probably have already seen the title of the pet. Like, probably spoilers. Who cares? Yeah. Yeah. There are spoilers in the past streams. Because, nothing I can do about it. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this stream. I do hope you enjoyed, and yeah. My throat is hoarse. So, yeah. That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. I need to rest my voice now. And blow my nose. Definitely blow my nose.